introduce to you two very, very special guests that we work with locally. So Dr. Aileen Alegado, she's a director and clinical psychologist at Mindset Consulting. We've been working closely with Aileen over the last 6 months, and I think you'll see today that she is bubbly and bright and optimistic about the way we talk about positive psychology. She's very much aligned to the way that we think about this. She's a great interviewer as well. And then we're very happy to welcome today Alison Earl, who I also believe lots of you will be familiar with, an author, a leadership trainer, and a speaker on mindset and resilience. So thank you very much for being with me today. I hope you're as excited about all of the product announcements as me. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Aileen and Alison to take you through a very special keynote.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. And so we get the privilege of wrapping up what would have been a very exciting few hours talking about workplace, well-being, self-care, and thriving, Alison.
Wonderful. I'm really excited to be here. It's been a fantastic day.
So I was thinking there was a lot of chat in terms of the whole person, the whole organization in terms of managing change. And as we know that these days, workplaces are like an Ironman challenge. It's no longer just like a sprint or even a marathon. Like once we finish the first round of the swim and we're absolutely exhausted, there is still another leg to do and get on a bike. And so I thought that's something that we both could talk a little bit about today and, be able to kind of share maybe some practical tools, relevant tips, so that people can really leave today's session empowered, positive, and that we know that stress at times, depending on how we interpret it, can be really positive. So how do we turn that stress into something positive, that it would enhance performance, that it will build connections, and that it will help us grow? So here we go. We're hoping that we can do that in 25 minutes. Hey?
Oh, I think the challenge is going to be keeping you and I to 25 minutes, to be honest. I think across all organizations that I've been working with, there's no doubt that there's just a huge level of exhaustion across the board, whether it's at the leadership level or people level. And I've noticed something called resilience fatigue. People have been resilient for so long and really tried to be positive and motivated and strong. But when we just it just never seems to end, and it just feels like one thing after another, the exhaustion really kicks in. And the challenge that we're seeing is that there's an enormous pressure on business to adapt and to step up to the next level and recreate what is next based on this major disruptive time that we've all gone through. So we need more and more from people, and yet we're exhausted at the starting line. So what I've noticed and been working with companies about is how do we help re-energize them before we ask for more? So there needs to be some kind of energizing experience that we're bringing into the workplace so that they're up for the next challenge. Because if we just keep asking for more, that's when the burnout just kicks in and we can't keep going. So that's a big thing for me I've been observing.
Yeah, that sounds really good in terms of like understanding what do we give employees, managers, leaders in regards to that what tools do we give them for that reset? How do we give them that mindset to be inspiring, to be energized, to be looking forward optimistically, given that everybody is kind of in that same space of they're still not sure, and there's so many changes going on, and there's likely to be more changes going on. So
many more changes to come.
That's right.
Yeah, how to stay positive and how to stay energized, and how also to just recognize that actually going up and down is part of the normal human experience. There's not necessarily anything wrong with you if you're having a period of feeling exhausted and or you're mentally not in the best place. That's all part of the human experience. And I think we've got this enormous pressure to always be up and always be in the thriving zone. And that's what we want to aspire to, absolutely. But there's nothing wrong with you if every now and again you're feeling a bit flat and not feeling quite inspired. But we need to be able to have the tools to recognize where you are at any given point, so you can give yourself what you need. I think when we've got that pressure to always be positive and always be motivated, without recognizing that some of the things we're going through and navigating are really tough, then we actually make it worse for ourselves. So for me, I think it's about individuals being able to have more control over their personal experience. There's just so many external factors. So whether you look at the global pandemic or just some of the weirdness in the world, or just the restructures that many organizations have gone through in response to their changing needs of their market, there seems like there's a lot of external factors that we have no control over. So as individuals, I think we need more ways that we can be in charge of our own experience of that and recognize that what's triggering for me and what I might find really stressful or exhausting or whatever else is not the same for you. And so I need to be able to understand my experience and then have tools that are more personalized. And I think that's what's causing managers to be so exhausted too, because they're actually having to manage this diverse range of needs. It's not just how are we performing it out in our role. It's also all of the things I'm trying to navigate as a person. And my personal needs are very different from someone else's. And it seems to be all in the workplace now because we are dealing with that whole person, which is amazing, but it's also more challenging for a manager to navigate that.
And I actually really like that idea of, a self-awareness as part of our accountability, because this is not just in order to thrive in the workplace. This is also for us to bring that into other areas of our life, whether that be at home, with our friends, in our community. So everyone's going to win. This is not something that is just going to benefit workplaces, but if anything, if people are happy and healthy, we know that changes absenteeism, presenteeism, and productivity. And so it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, that's the goal. I think I was in a really interesting conversation with one of my clients the other day, and they were just talking about, because of this new hybrid nature of work and doing much more in the home, and for many people their work desk is the kitchen bench and there's just less separation, which is obviously compounding all of the issues of not being able to switch off and feeling high levels of stress and all of that sort of thing. And it was interesting. Someone said, oh, well, maybe it's about, we should put some rules in place around, when emails should be sent. So even though it suits me to send an email at 10 p.m, because that's when I'm happy working, someone else receiving that might find it really stressful. So should we set boundaries so that they only show up within certain times? And these are all questions that organizations are navigating, like literally really practical stuff around how do we create boundaries when we don't have physical boundaries as much anymore. And I found it really interesting because it comes back to, again, what I find triggering may be very different to what you find triggering. So that may work for a portion of the workforce, but for another portion, it might be more stressful to feel quite restricted in the timeframes in which I can communicate. So I think the only way we can really learn to thrive together is to actually help individuals be more in control of their experience. How do we decrease the impact of the trigger on me personally so that I'm not being as triggered and I can respond in a way that's more thoughtful and aware, and I'm not getting so thrown by things like that. So I think the more we can help individuals recognize what their triggers and their experience is, then they can actually start to do something about it. Rather, it doesn't mean organizations shouldn't be asking these questions and thinking about them, but so much of it, I think, comes down to that individual ability to set your own rules that work for you and be more in control.
I agree, Alison. And I think that's where, something like Unmind is such a great tool, because people can really look at what is relevant to them, try it out, and knowing that other people might have a different set of tools that they're using as well. I mean, definitely as a clinical psychologist, we work from this person's this person's history, trauma, and what they're struggling with, which is something that might be energizing for somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. And actually being able to identify that so that that person can go and be empowered to do things for themselves and communicate what they need, because that's also part of the conversation, is having that conversation with the people that are able to help us.
Absolutely. And the flexibility in the workplace doesn't just mean flexible working hours. It's actually flexibility in allowing people that thrive in different contexts to be able to contribute at their best. So we've got more tolerance to the ways that people work and what's going to set them up for success. But again, that self-direction is just so important, because the pressure that's placed on a manager and a people leader, if they have to try and shoulder that for everyone else, and all of a sudden I'm personally responsible for making sure that your very specific needs, companies I've been working with, I work with a people leader, and they've been dealing with all in one team. Some people were struggling with homeschooling and just not feeling like they could get away from any of their family. Others were more dealing with isolation and living on their own. Now that there's this more hybrid nature to working, they're having to deal with people's challenges around, I want to be able to do pick up and drop off, and now I've got to fix my work hours around that. Like, the personalized nature in which managers are working with people is beyond just what you're doing in your job. So it's a lot of pressure for leaders, and people leaders in particular, to be taking all that on if they don't have the skills to sort of compassionately shift ownership back to their team and give them the space to be able to set the tone and be someone that can coach and support them through that. Otherwise, we're going to burn out all of our leaders as well through the process.
Yes. And I'd like to take this chance, Alison, to mention that, you have extensively written a little bit about this, the 3 key ingredients to what will make a difference in a person being able to thrive under stress versus those who don't. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about a synopsis of your book, Typowerment?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the book was really inspired because I'd been working across so many organizations and on big behavior change programs, did a lot of work in public health. And what became completely apparent to me through the work I do in behavioral economics, positive psychology, and just motivation in general, was that people don't change unless they choose to. And that self-directed nature of change is really, really fundamental if we're going to be successful. And then the other element is what really separates people that go and achieve remarkable results, but just regular people, right? So you can find lots of inspirational stories around those that were, kind of geniuses or really outside of the normal mold. We can all look up to and go, isn't that inspiring? But what's relatable? Like, what's something that I go, that's just a regular person and they've achieved extraordinary results, and what's the difference? And through my research and my collaboration with the Harvard School of Public Health, I sort of was able to boil it down to 3 key things. And one of them is that why power. And why power is that self-determination. Again, it's got to be self-determined. It's got to be connected to things I care about and value. And I've got to be the one that defines that, not someone can't define that for me. And that's a big part of what people are going through now, the Great Resignation, all of those issues about getting engagement, is that people have been so through this whole change, there's a lot of perspective searching and maybe grass is greener, and people have got to really reconnect with what matters to them and why they want to be a part of an organization and a part of that journey moving forward. The other element is willpower, which is more about self-discipline. And this is just as much about energy management as it is about anything else. Like, willpower is an energy source. And when it runs out, we basically don't have the capacity to make decisions, to be creative, to do what we say we're going to do, right? Just really basic things. So that willpower is absolutely essential if we don't have good structures and good disciplines, but energy management. And then the other element, which I just think is so essential, is way power, which is more about self-efficacy. And do we have people that, even if they don't know the answers today, which, by the way, most of the things we're navigating and challenged with are things we don't know the answers to. We're having to build the bridge as we cross it. Do we have that capacity to say, I can figure it out? Even if I don't know how to do it today, I can figure it out. I believe in myself. I've got that growth mindset and that's I can sort of mentality. And these three factors go a long way to determining if people are going to thrive, even in the context of really challenging situations. So
I love that. It's like the why, the will, and the way.
And
so
the
we
way.
will get
Right.
we will get that just written up on the chat. So if people wanted to grab the book, they can read about that more. And also just on the willpower that you mentioned, this is like this, there was this buzz about wearing the same thing every day and having the same breakfast every day.
Oh yeah.
As a way of not using your decisions and energy for those smaller things.
Yeah.
And a book that I would
Only
like
having
to
3 items of clothing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's easier for washing too, isn't it? But
Yeah.
one book that I'd recommend for creating really good habits that's very practical and something that most people can relate to is the one by James Clear called Atomic Habits. That's a really popular bestseller. So just give that a go as well, in terms of if you're looking for something that you can read, implement, and start doing and making that change.
I love James Clear's work because it's so simple as well. And it really is about those like little differences that over time compound. So we all know about the power of compounding interest at this point and kick ourselves for not starting that account earlier. We know all that sort of stuff, but it's the same thing with our behaviors. So whether we just do something 1% better, but we're doing it every day, the compounding effect of that over time is just this beautiful upward motion. And it really starts to make a huge change in terms of how we're showing up, what our mindset and beliefs are, what we're achieving. Same thing goes, little tiny downward spirals. So even though if we just start doing, like letting something slip, just start doing that little extra coffee instead of finding another way to energize that makes us feel better, that also has a downward spiral compounding effect. So it can be really, really little things that make a huge difference to how we're feeling and showing up every day. And that's definitely something I think I've become more focused on, is that, I used to listen to a lot of those podcasts that were high performers and all of that sort of thing. And Aileen, you and I have talked about this before, but, by the time you've listened to all of these high performers and what you need to do to be successful, you're kind of way more stressed and you need 5 extra hours in your day because you need to have had a full night's sleep. I've got a 1-year-old, so that's a bit of a luxury at the moment, a full night's sleep. And then you'll wake up and do some meditation, followed by some journaling, followed by a workout. And then you're probably fasting. So then you need to break your fast with the green juice or something like that. And this is all before your workday's even begun. And for the vast majority of people, it just starts becoming like the water levels are up here somewhere, and how do we even get on top of it? And then we end up doing nothing. And that's the what the hell effect, right? We're like, oh, well, we've done the wrong thing anyway. We haven't done all the things, so we'll just jump in. We'll just do this thing over here anyway. Or if I'm not being perfect, then what's the point? And I think more than anything, we need simplicity. We need ease. And that's something that we should all be striving for. Don't try and be an ideal person in a less than ideal world. Just take those little changes, little tips, and just start trying to do one thing and see how that goes, and then build on it. And that's what I love about James Clear's work.
Yeah, something is always better than nothing. So making baby steps and starting small. I'm aware of the time. So for us to wrap up, I wanted to ensure that we actually just go through maybe a little bit of the little tool that you're going to give everybody that's participating today as a gift.
Yes,
Alison.
yes.
So if you wanted to go through that.
That would be wonderful. So in the spirit of simplicity, I have, are you seeing my screen? Are you seeing the?
Yes, I am.
Are you seeing the video series?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I've got lots of screens up. So in the spirit of simplicity, we've just put together a little gift for everyone that's here today, which is just a Thrive with Change video series. And the whole point of this is to try and transform your experience of stress, change, and uncertainty in just 1 month. And it really is about getting those simple little tools every day and just putting one into practice and seeing the difference that it makes. So if you'd like to get this tool, all you need to do is just go to the QR code here, and the Unmind team will provide this to anyone else as well. And it will just take you to a page where you can, first of all, just sign up to get the video series. And then every day you'll just get one of these short, simple tips, a little video. There's more content there for anyone that really likes to go into the science, because I'm a bit of a science nerd and I like to know all the ins and outs of it. But really the idea is just to try out each tool, put it into practice, see how you feel, what has the best impact on you. You're welcome, Christina. And just see how it goes and see the impact that it has, because every single one of these is something that you could do really simply in a couple of minutes, and it just makes scientifically proven to make a big difference. And then you can just sort of track how you're going from this surviving to thriving over the course of the time. And the idea is with these sorts of little tools that you can just start putting into practice, you can try and get up into that thriving zone a little bit more often. And if you find yourself surviving or coping, that's okay. Use some of the tools, and Unmind is full of them as well. So use your Unmind tools to just go, right, what do I need to get me up? So these are just some of the simple little tools that you could put into practice.
Fantastic. And thank you for sharing that. I'm definitely going to get onto that. And I'm looking at like connect with humanity and move your body. I'm very excited to be going dancing soon. So
dancing, yes. So good for you.
This is a wrap up. Is there any kind of, I guess, pearls of wisdom that you would like to share with everyone before we wrap up, before we hand over to Matt?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think it's along the lines of what we've been talking about just now, is just when we're in a state of exhaustion, keep it simple, right? Keep it simple and just really focus on what you need right now. Sometimes we get bogged down by the entirety of what we need to be doing. And when we're in a state of exhaustion, which many people are, really just focus on the simple little things that are going to actually help shift your state. And it's a bit of fake it till you become it, because the more we kind of practice them, even if we're not feeling it straight away, the effects will start to take place. And then when we're feeling more energized, we can take on the big challenge. We can show up with more energy and do the things that we know we want to be doing. But we've got to get to that place of energy first.